Ghost of the Forbidden Species. The Galactic Confederation had enjoyed 12,000 cycles of uninterrupted peace. 17 species spanning across 32 star systems maintained a delicate harmony through shared resources, knowledge exchange, and strict adherence to the Confederation Charter. Their society was governed by reason and diplomatic calculation, wars relegated to historical archives, and studied only as cautionary tales. High Commander Vazril of the Sentinel Fleet stood motionless on the command deck of the Eternal Vigilance, his 4 upper appendages clasped behind his back as he studied the holographic display. His scaled skin reflected the blue glow of the projection, highlighting the deep worry lines etched across his facial ridges. "The anomaly persists, Commander," reported Science Officer Nilara, her crystalline body pulsing with concerned frequencies. 72 hours and the signal pattern remains consistent. It defies natural explanation. Vazril's secondary eyes narrowed while his primary pair remained fixed on the display. "The Council demands answers. They've dispatched 3 additional Sentinel vessels to our position." "Unusual," Nilara observed, her voice resonating through the crystalline formations that compose her form. "The Council rarely commits resources without extensive debate. The signal originates from the Void Sector," Vazril replied, his tone dropping to a near whisper. "Beyond established territories, beyond our jurisdiction. The Void Sector, a region of space the Confederation deliberately avoided, not due to resource scarcity or stellar phenomena, but because of ancient warnings passed down through generations. Warnings that mentioned a species whose name was spoken only in hushed tones during the most secure council sessions. When the reinforcements arrived, Vazril led the small fleet toward the signal source. They traveled cautiously, running passive scans only, careful not to broadcast their presence as they crossed into uncharted territory. "Commander," the sensor officer's voice cracked with alarm. "Massive object detected at coordinates 392 to 841,127. It's a vessel." "Classification?" Vazril demanded, straightening his posture. "Unknown, sir. The design matches nothing in our archives." The view screen adjusted to display a distant silhouette against the backdrop of a pale nebula. The ship was angular, utilitarian, with no aesthetic considerations in its design. Weapon emplacements dotted its hull, and enormous engine clusters suggested incredible propulsion capabilities. "Magnify," ordered Vazril. As the image clarified, a collective gasp rippled through the command deck. There, emblazoned on the hull in faded but unmistakable symbols, was a marking that sent ice through Vazril's circulatory system. A stylized planet with a single moon orbiting it. Below it, in a script recognized only by the Confederation's deepest archives, was a word that had not been spoken aloud in council chambers for thousands of cycles. "Earth." "Impossible," whispered Nilara, her crystalline form dimming in shock. "Secure channel to the Council." "Priority Omega," Vazril commanded, his voice steady despite the fear gripping his core. The response was immediate. The highest-ranking members of the Council materialized as holograms on the bridge, their forms shimmering with urgency. "Is it confirmed?" asked Archon Ceres of the Luminary Conclave, her luminescent form pulsing with alarmed frequencies. "Yes, Archon," replied Vazril. "The vessel bears Earth markings. It appears to be human." The word hung in the recycled air like a toxin. Humans. The species that should not exist anymore. The civilization that the oldest Confederation records described in warnings rather than histories. "This cannot be." Grand Minister Tholax of the Proxima Hegemony expanded anxiously, his gelatinous form rippling with distress. The quarantine protocols were absolute. Their homeworld was isolated, their early interstellar capabilities dismantled. They should be confined to their star system for at least another millennium. "Evidently," said Vazril, "they are not." The Council debated furiously, their voices overlapping as ancient contingency plans were excavated from secure archives. Meanwhile, the human vessel remained motionless, seemingly unaware of or unconcerned by, the Confederation fleet's presence. "We must establish communication," Nilara suggested suddenly, interrupting the Council's deliberations. If they intended hostility, they would have acted already. Reluctantly, the Council authorized a standard greeting package, a basic mathematical sequence establishing intelligence, followed by simplified visual representations of the Confederation species and an invitation to respond in kind. The human vessel's response came with alarming speed, suggesting advanced processing capabilities. Their return message was direct and chilling in its simplicity. Confederation vessels identified. Maintain QRRENT position. Attempts to approach HFY considered hostile actions. "They're scanning us," reported the sensor officer suddenly. "Penetrating scans. They're mapping our internal systems, weapons capabilities, crew composition. Our countermeasures are ineffective." Vazril felt his scales tighten with ancient instinctual fear. The old stories warned of human unpredictability, their biological irrationality, their willingness to sacrifice and destroy in pursuit of advantage. But they had been primitive then, barely achieving rudimentary space travel. "All vessels, maintain position," Vazril ordered. "No aggressive actions." "Commander," Nilara's voice was urgent. "The human vessel is powering up its propulsion systems. They're moving toward us." The massive ship accelerated with impossible speed, closing half the distance to the Confederation fleet in moments. Weapon systems across all 4 Confederation vessels automatically activated in response to the perceived threat. "Stand down," Vazril shouted. "Deactivate weapons." "That's an order." Too late. A single-point defense turret on one of the support vessels fired, the energy beam dissipating harmlessly against the human ship's shields. Silence fell across the command deck. Everyone waited for the inevitable response, the destruction of their fleet by weapons they couldn't comprehend. Instead, the human vessel halted its approach and broadcast another message. "Confederation vessels, we recognize your defensive posture. Your angel weapons discharge is executed as automated or espionage. We will hold the position. Prepare to receive envoys." Envoys. Vazril's secondary eyes blinked in confusion. They wished to send representatives. Before the Council could respond, the sensors detected a smaller craft launching from the human vessel. It approached at a more reasonable speed, unarmed according to preliminary scans. "They're coming here," Nilara whispered. "Humans. After all this time. Why now?" Vazril wondered aloud. Why break their isolation after thousands of cycles? The answer came unexpectedly, not from the humans, but from the void beyond. Space itself seemed to tear open in a brilliant flash of energy. Alarms blared across the command deck as sensors detected 3 massive vessels emerging from what appeared to be artificially generated wormholes. "Unknown contacts," shouted the sensor officer. "Configuration unrecognized. Not Confederation. Not human." The new arrivals were organic in appearance, with pulsating hulls that seemed to breathe. They dwarfed both the Confederation fleet and the human vessel. Without warning or communication, they unleashed a barrage of energy weapons toward both fleets. Evasive action. Vazril commanded as the first blast struck one of the support vessels, cleaving it in half. The human ship responded with stunning efficiency, interposing itself between the new threat and the remaining Confederation vessels. Its weapon systems activated in a synchronized symphony of destruction, lancing the lead alien vessel with precision strikes. A new transmission from the human ship reached them. "Confederation vessels, the DVOURERs, HFOU. Your existence no known to them. This is Doluiki. We broke QUARANTINI. Fall back to TVU or DNA is. We are to ansemiting. We UILCOV or your Retoriate. The Devourers. Nilara asked, her crystalline form vibrating with fear. An enemy even humans fear, Vazril realized with sudden clarity. Council, we must comply. The Council, for once, made a unanimous decision without debate. Retreat to the provided coordinates. Accept their assistance. As the Confederation vessels maneuvered to escape, the human ship engaged the three massive alien vessels alone. Its weapons carved through the organic hulls with terrible efficiency, its shields absorbing punishing counterattacks. How can they stand against such power? Nilara wondered, watching the battle unfold on the viewscreen as they retreated. Vazril watched in awe as the human vessel executed maneuvers that should have torn it apart, firing weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics themselves. Perhaps, he said slowly, the ancient warnings were not about protecting the galaxy from humans, but protecting humans from the galaxy. Nilara finished, her crystalline form pulsing with the revelation. The human vessel took devastating damage but continued fighting, allowing the Confederation ships to escape. As they reached the safety of the coordinates provided, Vazril realized that everything the Confederation believed about their place in the universe was about to change. The humans weren't quarantined because they were dangerous to the galaxy. They were quarantined because they were its last hope. Allies of necessity. The emergency rendezvous point proved to be a small, unremarkable system with a dim red dwarf star. Its 3 planets were barren, seemingly devoid of resources that would attract attention. Yet as the damaged Confederation vessels limped into orbit around the second planet, Vazril noticed the subtle artificial structures hidden beneath the dusty surface. A human outpost, Nilara observed, her crystalline form analyzing the sensor data. Long abandoned from the looks of it, but recently reactivated. How many more of these exist throughout our territory? Vazril wondered aloud. The implications were staggering. Humans had been preparing for something, establishing hidden bases throughout Confederation space without detection. The Eternal Vigilance shuddered as repair drones worked to seal hull breaches. One of their support vessels had been destroyed, another crippled beyond independent function. Only Vazril's command ship and a single escort remained operational. Commander, the communications officer called. The human shuttle is requesting permission to dock. Vazril hesitated, then nodded. Grant permission. Security team to the docking bay. When the human delegation emerged from their shuttle, the Confederation security team took involuntary steps backward. The humans were tall, bipedal beings clad in form-fitting armor that seemed to pulse with internal energy. Their faces were obscured behind polarized visors, but their body language conveyed controlled power. One human stepped forward, removing their helmet to reveal a face that sent shivers through Vazril's scales. Smooth skin without scales or plates, a shock of dark filaments emerging from the top of the head and eyes, disturbing in their expressiveness, that seemed to evaluate everything with unsettling intelligence. High Commander Vazril, the human spoke in flawless Confederation standard. I am Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Defense Force vessel Prometheus. We apologize for the dramatic first contact. Vazril struggled to maintain his composure. You speak our language. We speak all 17 languages of the Confederation. Reyes replied matter-of-factly. We've been monitoring your communications for centuries. The Council representatives, still connected via hologram, sputtered in outrage. Archon Ceres's luminescent form pulsed with alarmed frequencies. This is a violation of the most sacred, the Quarantine Treaty. Reyes interrupted. The one your ancestors imposed on us after sabotaging our early warp experiments. The one that condemned billions to die on Earth when the resource wars began. Silence fell across the command deck. The oldest council members exchanged uncomfortable glances. That is ancient history, Grand Minister Tholex finally said. Before any of us were born. Not to us, Reyes replied. Humans have long memories, but we're not here to settle old grudges. We're here because the Devourers have awakened and your Confederation is unprepared. These Devourers, Vazril asked. What are they? Reyes gestured, and one of her companions projected a holographic display. It showed organic-looking ships similar to those that had attacked them. A hive intelligence that consumes all organic matter to expand its collective. They hibernate for millennia, then awaken to feed. Your ancestors knew about them. It's why they quarantined us. They believed humans were too aggressive, too dangerous to join galactic society. They feared we would attract the Devourers with our warlike tendencies. And did you? Nilara asked. Reyes smiled grimly. No, your peaceful confederation did. Your expansion, your terraforming, your energy signatures, all detectable across vast distances to the right sensors. The Devourers were always coming. We've been preparing for centuries while you've been maintaining your peaceful utopia. The implications settled over the command deck like a shroud. The Confederation had prided itself on peaceful coexistence, on solving problems through diplomacy rather than force. They had no significant military, no weapons of mass destruction, no defense strategies against an overwhelming threat. We need your help, Vazril admitted, the words difficult to speak. And we need yours, Reyes responded. The Prometheus is just one ship. We have others, but not enough to face the full might of the Devourers when their main fleet arrives. How long do we have? Asked Arkshan Saris. 3 standard months, Reyes replied. Maybe less. The council erupted into panicked debate, their holograms flickering as they argued. Vazril silenced them with a gesture. What do you propose, Captain Reyes? The human's expression hardened. An alliance. We provide the weapons, the tactics, the combat experience. You provide the resources, the manufacturing capacity, and your understanding of this region of space. You wish us to militarize, Folax said, his gelatinous form rippling with distaste. I wish you to survive, Reyes countered. The Devourers don't negotiate. They don't accept surrender. They consume everything. Over the next weeks, an uneasy alliance formed. Human technicians arrived to upgrade Confederation ships with weapons and shield technology centuries beyond their own development. Reyes revealed a network of hidden human outposts throughout Confederation space, activated after lying dormant for generations. Vazril worked closely with the human captain, learning combat tactics that went against every protocol in Confederation manuals. The humans fought with a combination of calculated precision and intuitive leaps that boggled his methodical mind. You take unnecessary risks, he observed during a tactical simulation that ended with a human victory, but unacceptable casualties by Confederation standards. We understand sacrifice, Reyes replied. Sometimes you must lose battles to win wars. The human capacity for self-sacrifice proved most difficult for the Confederation species to comprehend. In one training exercise, a human pilot deliberately crashed their vessel into a simulated Devourer ship to allow others to escape. Why? Nilara asked afterward, her crystalline form dimmed with confusion. The simulation could have been reset. Another approach attempted. Because in real combat, there are no resets, the human instructor explained. We train as we fight. One life for many is a calculation humans have made throughout our history. As the deadline approached, scout vessels reported Devourer activity increasing at the edges of Confederation space. Colonies were evacuated, resources consolidated. The combined human Confederation fleet gathered at strategic points, preparing for a war unlike any the peaceful galaxy had seen in 12,000 cycles. The final battle came sooner than expected. A massive Devourer fleet, hundreds of organic vessels pulsing with hungry energy, emerged from artificially generated wormholes throughout Confederation territory. The human-led defense was ready. Captain Reyes coordinated from the Prometheus, which now served as the fleet's command vessel. Vazril stood beside her on the bridge, watching as the largest conflict in known history unfolded across multiple star systems. They're targeting population centers first, Reyes observed grimly. Standard consumption pattern. Defensive formation Omega, Vazril ordered the Confederation vessels. As we practiced. The battle raged for days. Confederation ships, once designed for scientific exploration and diplomatic missions, now bristled with human weapons technology. They fought with growing confidence, following the strategies their human allies had taught them. But the Devourers adapted quickly, changing tactics to counter the defense. Losses mounted on both sides. "We need to strike their command node," Rise determined after analyzing battle data. "All these ships are controlled from a central intelligence. How do we identify it?" Vazril asked. "We don't need to," Rise said, a dangerous gleam in her eyes. "We make it reveal itself." The plan was quintessentially human, reckless, unpredictable, and brilliant in its audacity. The Prometheus would appear to suffer catastrophic damage, broadcasting false data about a revolutionary weapons system in its engineering section. The Devourers, driven by their need to consume and adapt to new technologies, would direct their command node to personally consume this prize. "It's too risky," Vazril argued. "Your ship would be at the center of their fleet." "Exactly where we need to be," Rice countered. "To end this." The trap was set. The Prometheus emerged from a damaged Confederation outpost, appearing to limp through space, broadcasting carefully crafted technical specifications of a fictional technology. The Devourers took the bait. Their largest vessel, a pulsating monstrosity that dwarfed even their impressive battleships, moved to intercept personally. It extended organic tendrils to begin the consumption process. "Now," Rise ordered. The Prometheus dropped its facade of damage, power surging through systems that had only been pretending to fail. The human ship detonated specially designed charges that had been attached to the Devourer command node's tendrils, transferring a genetically engineered virus directly into the central organism. The effect was immediate and devastating. The command node convulsed, its organic systems failing as the virus rewrote its genetic code. The psychic connection to its fleet fragmented, leaving individual Devourer ships suddenly autonomous and confused. Without central coordination, the Devourer fleet became disorganized, individual vessels acting on primitive instincts rather than strategic intelligence. The combined human Confederation forces pressed their advantage, methodically eliminating the now vulnerable enemy. In the aftermath, as damage reports flooded in and victory celebrations began across Confederation space, Vazril found Captain Rice on the observation deck of the Eternal Vigilance, staring out at the stars. "Your strategy was unorthodox," he admitted, "but effective." "Humans have always excelled at asymmetric warfare," she replied. "When you can't match your enemy's strength, you change the rules of engagement." "The Council is convening to discuss the future," Vazril said. "They wish to revise the Quarantine Treaty." Reyes turned to face him, her expressive eyes unreadable. "And you? What do you wish, High Commander?" Vazril considered the question. Throughout his career, he had followed Confederation protocols without question, believing in the superiority of their peaceful approach to galactic civilization. Yet in weeks of working with humans, he had seen capabilities his people had forgotten. Innovation born of necessity, courage born of adversity, unity forged in resistance. "I believe," he said slowly, "that the galaxy needs humans, not despite your warrior nature, but because of it." Reyes smiled, a gesture that still unsettled Vazril slightly. "We're more than warriors, Commander. We're explorers, artists, dreamers. We fight fiercely because we love deeply. That's something the Devourers could never understand, and perhaps something your Confederation had forgotten." As they stood together, watching repair vessels tend to the battle-damaged fleet, Vazril understood that the galaxy was entering a new age. The peaceful isolation of the Confederation was ending, replaced by something more complex, more dynamic, and perhaps more resilient. Humanity had arrived, and the stars would never be the same again.